So we're back with my review, my kind of overall thoughts for the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo. I guess technically the first demo because we're getting the Junon one on the 21st. Right at the gate, I mean, there's not really anything negative. It's pretty much overwhelmingly positive. There's a few negative things that we can talk about and discuss, but they're not like game breaking. They don't really necessarily matter. Right now, I played through the demo twice. The first time on normal, of course, it's the hardest difficulty that's available. And the second time I played it on easy just to play through it again, but also capture gameplay footage. First off, the demo is pretty much everything you expect it to be if you know what the flashback is, right? When Cloud's telling this story in Calm, if you know what takes place during the retelling of that story, you kind of know what to expect within this demo. There are aspects of it that are different here and there, like this beginning sequence, instead of us fighting a dragon somewhere outside of Nibelheim, Sephiroth fights two of those kind of dragon-looking things that have like balls on their chin. They're called something different in this game compared to what they were in the original FF7. Most people believe that that's potentially because we might fight the actual dragon with our main party once we get to Nibelheim as like a boss fight or something. Either way, that's like one subtle change. With this obviously being a modern interpretation of Nibelheim, it's just bigger and there's more to do than there would be in the original FF7's flashback. You can interact with a lot more people. You can kind of explore a good portion of the houses and buildings. You can't explore them all, obviously. You have the updated gameplay element of Cloud being able to climb up and over things. There's not a whole lot to do with it, at least in the town. Once you start climbing the mountain, you get a better use out of it, but it's still there. You can climb up one shit for some reason. Now, when it comes to you first getting to Nibelheim, you can interact with technically like 6 different parts of the town. The first one being the well where the promising happened. You can get a little kind of nostalgic flashback sort of thing for Cloud. He looks longingly at Tifa's window. You can go over to the Nidhogg Inn and get felt up by an old man. I guess that's pretty fun. You can also head on over to the general store right next to the inn and interact with the shopkeeper who recognizes Cloud. Or I guess, does she recognize Cloud? Does Cloud think she's recognizing him? Is he recounting this accurately? Who knows? I actually almost forgot if you want to include this as like a location. It's at least a character you can interact with. You can talk to this lady over here, the villager that gives you sandwiches. I'm not really sure what the point of this is. You can eat like 3 different sandwiches. She has like different dialogue each time you eat. And you get like a different notification every time you eat a sandwich.
Silly boy. You should have let us know you'd be paying us a visit. Sure, you must have taken them as snacks on a play date before. Wait, did you go on any play dates?
Everyone, please!
Spending the night at home, won't you? Maybe I'll pay your mother a visit. Oh, but I shouldn't impose. You two must have a lot of catching up to do.
Almost feels like there would be a purpose to this, because as you're eating the sandwiches, you're getting the different dialogue, and the last one says, like, you won't have room for dinner tonight. If you go back to actually that Crisis Core, like, Cloud texts you at one point and is trying to convince Zack to come, like, eat dinner with him and his mom or whatever. So it almost seems like there was something there, like, if you didn't eat the sandwiches, like, Cloud would be hungry, and then maybe you could do something differently. The scene with the mom might be different, or something along those lines. But I don't think there is any sort of payoff. I think it's just simply for this character to give you a bit of exposition. Because she does talk about y'all taking the sandwiches on play dates back then, but then she's like, wait, did you go on any play dates? Which is like a hint towards like Cloud not really being childhood friends with Tifa. At least not that close anyways. Now from the sandwich lid, you can head on over to the town hall. You can actually meet the cameraman here that takes the iconic picture of, air quotes, Cloud, Tifa, and Sephiroth. And then you can try to enter the town hall, but currently Sephiroth and the mayor are having a meeting. And then we can head on over to Tifa's house, of course, where we're going to dig through her underwear drawer.
You went into my room?
I did.
You went through my stuff?
I know I shouldn't have.
Cloud! You asshole!
I absolutely love this part just because it's a callback to the original where when you're doing the flashback, you like look through there and Cloud says that he finds like orthopedic underwear, which is obviously meant to be like a joke. I think in the Japanese version, it's like more like lingerie or something, a little more like a thong or something. I don't know what it's supposed to be, a little more implications in the Japanese version, but it's just kind of a callback to that, right? Where he's like digging through her shit and then like she gets pissed off and like both Aerith and Tifa call him an asshole. It's kind of funny. I actually haven't done the option to see what is said if you say that you didn't go through there. There's just a joke. Tifa's room, of course, is where you can play the piano minigame, which I am beyond awful at. You can play her theme here. This is a minigame that I'm going to struggle with in terms of the platinum when it comes to the full game, because holy hell do I not have the coordination for this.
Wow. Where'd you learn to do that?
You can then go work out with Zongon and the boys, and then go visit Claude's mom, Claudia.
Is that you?
Hey,
Welcome home. Come in. Let me get a good look at you.
This scene plays out more or less the same as it did with the flashback you got whenever Cloud stays at Aerith's house. There's obviously a little bit expanded, you get a little more additional scenes, but you also get this little digital glitch effect, and it kind of speed runs the scenes that you've already seen before. Overall, this part was probably the most important when it comes to the beginning sequence of the flashback. It is a little underwhelming for me because I was hoping to get a little more from Claudia. Obviously, we don't have a lot with Cloud's parents in general when it comes to FF7. And I remember when we got like trailers back in the day for Remake and we got to see Claudia, they kind of show that off in trailers, the flashback and shit. I always wanted to explore the house. I was like excited to explore the house when it comes to the Remake project, and we just don't get that with this demo. There's just so many possibilities. You could just know about Cloud's life from like just pictures and things around the house, or like toys and objects and things that he grew up with or whatever. Could have got a picture of like Cloud with his dad. Get to finally see Cloud's dad or something, right? We just don't get that, and I just was kind of hoping for more. Anyways, after leaving Cloud's MILF's house, we meet Sephiroth upstairs at the inn, and then of course we start our journey up the mountain.
Tifa, you can still back out. You don't have to do this.
I'm going, and that's that.
I won't really bore you with like the journey up the entire mountain because it's relatively the same. There's obviously expanded things. You go through like a Shinra facility on like a detour or something like that, but the journey there's more or less the same. You get to the fucking road bridge, it breaks, you guys fall down, etc. I will say though, this first area right here is actually a decent size, especially for the beginning of the game here. There's not really anything to find though. Like the area is a decent size. There's not really too many enemies to fight. There might be some Shinra boxes here and there you can destroy, but there's not like hidden material or hidden items or anything like that. But still, good size area. I do want to hop back a bit to the jumping animation we talked about previously for Cloud. It's kind of janky at times. Like when he's jumping up and down off of shit, it looks good depending. It's kind of random. I don't know what actually dictates it looking kind of funny or goofy, but it does sometimes. And speaking of that, there's also like wildlife in this area. You can actually come across deer, but there's also an insane jumping animation for the deer.
I wish I could go on trips all over the world like you guys.
Trips? I think you mean business trips, which are no fun at all.
Though you do learn stuff on them.
That's so cool.
That is seriously some of the goofy shit I've ever fucking seen. I don't even understand why the deer have a jumping animation. Why not make it to where they just go around objects, like just stay on the ground, solid ground, run away from you. When they get far enough away from you, they like disappear from the map anyways. Like, I don't know why there's like some odd jumping animation, but I almost want to put like a cartoon spring sound effect every time they jump. Now, all this is to say that regardless of the kind of goofiness of the jumping animation sometimes, I would still rather have the feature than not have it at all. It's still a welcome addition. I actually want to hop back really quickly because I forgot to talk about this. The iconic like photo moment from original FF7 that Sephiroth, Cloud, and Tifa take as they're leaving Nibelheim. It's different in Rebirth, and it's mostly because of the layout of Nibelheim. They don't take the picture in front of the Shinra Manor, mostly because the Shinra Manor is off the beaten path, like to the left of Cloud. To the left of where they're standing right here in this shot, there's a path that goes to the Shinra Manor, and then to the right's the mountain, right? So they can't really take it in front of the Shinra Manor like they have in like every iteration of this scene. It was still just like a kind of weird change. With this video, the negatives that we're talking about aren't like the biggest deal, but it's also one of those things that I just don't understand why you change it, because we've had this like iconic shot in front of the Shinra Mansion since the original FF7 that they've recreated multiple times with like Crisis Core Reunion, like Last Order and shit. And I know Sephiroth's already kind of reluctant to take the picture in this moment because like Cloud and Tifa kind of have to talk him into it, but you could have had the photographers suggest like, hey, it'd be a great picture right in front of the Shinra Mansion, and you could have done that. And it'd be a bit of foreshadowing, of course, because that's where like a lot of the demo shit's going to culminate. Some of the backdrop of the picture doesn't actually matter, but it would have been a cool little tease for like the future. Like you could have even had the picture taken and like the camera just kind of hangs on the Shinra Manor for like another couple seconds as the group's kind of walking away. There's a little bit of foreshadowing for those of us that know what's going to happen. Before we continue here with some of the gameplay elements, I just wanted to kind of show off the map because you can actually look at the entire Nibel region, or at least I'm assuming the entire Nibel region. Obviously, there's a fog of war, so you can't make out a lot of it. And, of course, we're only able to go from Nibelheim to Mount Nibel. That's kind of it. But you can make out a lot of structures and stuff. These islands that have structures. Let me see some bridges. There's definitely like this airstrip off to the left of the map that we'll show at some point that has got to be where either we meet Cid whenever we get here in the actual Rebirth story, not in the flashback, of course. Or maybe it's just one of the airships that are kind of around the world that we can just kind of fly to with Cid's like airship services. Either way, I thought this was a really cool feature, something they did not have to put in the demo. They didn't even have to allow you to look at the map like this, but they do, and that's pretty damn cool. As we work our way up the mountain a bit, we get to our first combat section, and for a good little portion of our way up the mountain, you only control Cloud during some of the combat sections, until a later moment where Sephiroth feels like he needs to step in. And the new combat that they give to Cloud is pretty damn fun. It's very simplified. I mean, he plays pretty much the exact same as he did with Remake, of course. But as we step into the combat, they do pop up a window that shows off some of Cloud's new abilities, which he has the ability to fight ranged now, which is pretty cool. So as you dodge and start doing like an attack combo, you shoot out pretty much like blade beams, like these green beams or whatever. And if you dodge and hold the attack button, you can do an arrow combo. I don't really show it off in this part of the combat, because again, I'm just running through on easy just to capture some gameplay. I absolutely love this addition to Cloud's arsenal. If you go back to like Remake and think of the moments where you're kind of relying on people like Barret, whenever like the guard scorpion's up on like the wall and shit, or when you're in the sewer and like Abzu goes up on the wall and you're kind of relying on either magic or specifically ranged attacks, or like Aerith with her like staff, you know, be able to shoot at a range. Now Cloud has the capability. All you have to do is hit circle, do a dodge roll real quick, and then spam the attack button. You can shoot blade beams at them or whatever. But also I like the ability to do aerial combat. We don't really do that in this demo either, but when I was playing on normal and you have to fight like some of the aerial characters, enemies, whatever, like, I was using the aerial combat a lot. And actually, at one point later on, whenever we fight the Materia Keeper, or whatever the fuck he's called in this game, I do a pretty long string of combos in the air on him. It's pretty awesome. So the fight right after this one shows off the new First Strike feature, or whatever. Essentially just attacking the enemy before their gauge fills up, before they notice your party. And it'll give you a little boost to your ATB at the beginning. I guess that's kind of cool. Whatever. Have you guys ever wanted to see Cowgirl Tifa kick a bird? So this is obviously the fight where you're supposed to be testing the aerial combos if you wanted to. They also want you to do like perfect time dodges and stuff like that. You see that I use the ranged attack a lot. That's just, I don't know, something about that I love. I love ranged fighting in this game, specifically in Remake and like Rebirth and shit. Barret was like my go-to in a lot of the fights when it came to Remake. I don't know why I love the ranged combat, but I do. I think partially it's just because the AI is kind of weird in Remake, where they just kind of aggro whoever the player's controlling. And when you got to use like Cloud, who's got to be up close and personal with the sword, like you're just getting hit a lot. So I like switching to Barret, where I'm like at a distance and shooting them, and then the AI will switch to Barret and kind of come over there to fight him. When they get kind of close, you can switch off of Barret and use somebody else, and the AI will switch over there, and you kind of jump between the party members a lot. I just personally like that aspect of the game, like, because you can get up and close and personal with like Cloud and fuck things up, but then obviously you're in range to be hit by the enemy. This is to say that I'll be using the ranged attacking with Cloud a hell of a lot. Anyways, you got to fight some more birds, and there's a cutscene of another wave of birds coming to attack the group, and then this random Shinra trooper, for some reason, is just really trying to protect Tifa. I can't figure out why.
Well done, trooper.
Anyways, Cloud wants to go ahead of the group here just for Tifa's safety, to kind of clear a path, obviously. But once he gets up this way, there's a dead end, obviously. And they got to kind of backtrack and go through a gap in the mountain. With my initial playthrough of the game, I actually wrote it down in my notes, because like you couldn't go through the gap first. I noticed it right away. And I was wondering if this was something that was maybe locked for the demo, and then maybe like once we get the full release, you could go over there. Maybe there's like a treasure chest behind there or something like that. But no, it's just the way you gotta go. I just noticed it a little too early. On my second playthrough here, as I was recording, I actually noticed these Shinra boxes that are pretty up high, dude. I just kind of accidentally came across them, like as I was kind of hopping around the rocks here, just trying to see what was possible, see where I could get to. And it's kind of cool that they have shit kind of hidden up high. Like you actually do kind of jump around, even in the demo. Makes you wonder what shit's gonna be kind of hidden in the full game at later locations. This new materia you get in this Shinra facility here, the level boost materia, is pretty damn cool. You pair it with materia and it gives you an additional level on it. So if you pair it with like a fire materia, you'd get fire, obviously, so on and so forth. For the demo, I was just kind of pairing it with the HP up materia just to give you a little bit of health. Not that you're ever really in too much danger with the demo, but that was a cool idea. It obviously has no effect on a materia that's already max. Like if you have a fire gun materia, like you don't get like some special secret 4th level or some shit, which I think is a missed opportunity. Maybe that is a thing that could happen in like the 3rd game or some shit, but I think there's something you could have done with that that would have been pretty cool if you could get like this additional secret spell or additional level on some shit. So we end up getting this mini kind of boss fight in the facility against this enemy that's like a modern interpretation of, I think it's pronounced Madug, which is like a common enemy in the Mithril Mine. It looks pretty damn cool, and it's got an interesting like mechanic where you kind of can't attack him from the front because he's always spinning his like ball and chain weapon, whatever the fuck it is. I guess this also means that this enemy won't be in the Mithril Mine section once we get there, but this was still kind of a cool fight, I guess.
Gotta say, that one felt pretty good.
So here we get to the Mako vacuuming mini game, I guess you'd call it. I don't know. You just push this vacuum over these spots where Mako's coming out. It absorbs it. Once you absorb it all, you can unlock the door and go through the elevator. This one's kind of nothing. At least the second one that you do on the mountain has a little more of a mechanic to it. It's not like fucking hard to figure out. You just got to open a door and go a different route. But all the same, this is kind of existing, I guess. I don't know what to say. Like, it's kind of I don't understand the point of it. I mean, I get the literal reason that it exists. It's like there's too much Mako, the doors won't open because obviously too much Mako is dangerous. I know why that's a thing. I just don't understand why we have to do this to progress. I don't know. It's whatever. Anyways, not too long after this, we get to the rope bridge scene where, of course, it breaks and our group falls. I like this whole segment a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of just like lightning striking the bridge. It's just a little circumstantial, like what are the odds of lightning striking the bridge that you're walking on type shit, right? I'd rather the bridge just like crumble from like decay or whatever, like it does in the original FF7. But regardless, the scenes that play afterwards are fantastic. My initial thoughts of this scene were that Sephiroth was jumping down in the water to kind of like save everybody, kind of less weight on the rope, less weight on the bridge, maybe try to prevent it from falling. And that could be the case. He might just be doing it just to get to safety. Like, he knows the bridge is going to fall. Let's hop in the water and get away from this shit. But the scene of them down in the water is pretty damn cool because you get to see like this rushing water that like a lot of them are fighting against, but Sephiroth's just standing in it and kind of walking. So it was like Zack Cloud a bit, right? But seeing like Sephiroth reach out and just like save Tifa is a pretty cool moment just because this is still good guy Sephiroth. You see that he still gives a shit. He's still a hero. And then you get to see Cloud, air quotes, save one of the troopers, which is also Cloud. But then one of them gets washed away, and it's a pretty cool moment because you actually see it affect Sephiroth. And like right after this scene, we get a scene that takes place a few hours later, and Sephiroth's looking for him. Couldn't find the guy, but it's just kind of cool to see how much Sephiroth gives a shit about the people on his mission. Anytime we get scenes of like humanizing Sephiroth, I absolutely love it. That's part of why I loved Crisis Core, right? When I first played it, like I played the original FF7, and obviously you're not necessarily fighting Sephiroth the whole time, but Sephiroth is just this pure evil piece of shit, right? And then you play Crisis Core, and it's like, this guy's got a bit of a personality. He's pretty cool, right? He's like, helps Zack. They're like legitimately friends, him, Zack, and Genesis, and all them. It's like a cool thing. And then we see shit like this, where it's right before the breaking point, right, for Sephiroth. And you see him like legitimately affected. You think this guy doesn't have feelings, really, but legitimately affected by losing that random trooper. The trooper might not be dead necessarily, but he does get washed away in the river, right? And Sephiroth can't find him. So presumably, he did die. And it's just a nice little dark moment that I wasn't expecting from the demo. Other than the dark moment that we know is coming.
He's in Fate's hands now.
I also like the whole segment too, just because like when they're in the river, like obviously it's Zack saving the trooper Cloud, right? But like if he just happened to be the other trooper, it would have been Cloud that got washed away and just fucking died, right? Like the whole like scenario there of like Zack actually saving that trooper and it being Cloud changes the whole trajectory of the Final Fantasy VII story. At least with the remake project. And because of the serious shit that just happened, this is where Sephiroth kind of steps up and joins Cloud in combat. He kind of let Cloud have his fun, guiding the way, fighting the enemies, but now some serious shit has happened that he's lost somebody. This is where he steps up as the party leader, because he actually is the party leader by default after this. And then we get this little climbing section, right? The people have kind of poked fun at it already, because it's a common thing in gaming. It's a little too common, where there's like yellow things on the wall that means you can climb the wall, right, essentially. And they did that with Rebirth here. It's kind of an old thing to be doing still. But I'm fine with it, whatever. The ability to climb is all I give a shit about. I can give a fuck what the paint color is. This is where you finally get to control Sephiroth. He's definitely fun to control. A lot of people love him. I haven't used him enough to really understand all the nuances of his combat. I haven't used like the R1, like different kind of stance that he can do. Retaliation stance, I think it is. It's fun to use him though. It's just awesome he's not like obliterating everything like he did with like the original FF7. Like you still can get hit and take some damage and get knocked down a bit. With the normal mode playthrough when I'd switch to Sephiroth, like I definitely got like low on health, which is a little underwhelming. You kind of want him to be like almost overpowered strong. I guess it'd be kind of boring for gameplay if you could just switch to Sephiroth or like AI Sephiroth, which is absolutely slaughtering everything. But still, it's just a little bit underwhelming. Also, this section right here, I just want to throw this out there. I tried to climb this. This looks like you could climb it, doesn't it? It looks like you could almost get on one of these boxes and hop up there, but you can't. I don't know if that's something, again, maybe the full release. I know we're getting to like carryover data or whatever, getting to pick up from the end of this demo, but it almost looks like you could climb up on that ledge up there. Maybe get up on this like scaffoldings and shit. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. Just want to point it out. It has nothing to do with the actual demo itself, but for some reason my recording started to bug out right here. I don't know why. Thought I'd throw it in the video. Actually, I did forget to mention that Sephiroth does also have like some ranged capabilities. By just holding down the attack button, holding down square, he'll do like some sort of range attack. It's another little small thing here that we can kind of put in the negative category if you want to. It's just the game's kind of dark at points. Like when I was playing this the other day, like I'm seeing my reflection in my damn TV because of how dark this shit gets right here. Maybe you can up the brightness in the settings, but then it would also make the other areas of the game that look really good also a little too bright, I would assume. So I don't know, just a little weird. This is, of course, the cave where the iconic Mako Spring is, and it looks pretty damn good in this game. This location we're coming up on right here, I think, just looks really cool. It's like a really cool shot when you come over the top right here and to see the shit on the horizon. It was a little jarring at first, just because, like, in my mind, we're going up the mountain, so I don't understand why we're here at the ocean and seeing that shit. But then it kind of clicks that, like, you did fall off the mountain, right? You did fall down into the river, and you're kind of working your way back up now. So it kind of makes sense to see the ocean here, but it's kind of cool. Like, Nibelheim itself wasn't necessarily, like, really close to the ocean. It's kind of right there, I guess. But they kind of seem to almost reorient it a bit to where you're, like, right on the edge of the ocean. Anyways, I'll hop down here to grab this material really quickly. And as you're running around the world or whatever, like, the people that are with you kind of follow you and do what you do, essentially. But when I climb back up to the top, like, they all just kind of pop into existence, and it was a little frightening. As we work our way more up the mountain, we end up fighting a zoo, which I suppose is like another kind of mini boss fight or something like that. This is where they first show you the tutorial, I guess, for how to do the synergy skills, which is kind of cool. Actually, as I'm looking at this gameplay here, I'm reminded that this was our first look at, like, the potential playable Sephiroth back when we had that, like, TGS little hype video and that little sneak peek of the demo, and you got to see, like, Cloud and Sephiroth having a synergy attack and shit. It looked like you could switch to Sephiroth. Anyways, let's go ahead and vacuum up some more Mako, I guess.
Mako gas levels reduced by 20%. Gas levels reduced by 70%. No Mako gas detected. Elevator access granted.
Absolutely riveting stuff. This is, of course, where we go fight the Materia Keeper, or what's called the Materia Guardian, now pretty much the same damn name. The fight's, yeah, it's only easy, so it's nothing like crazy, but it's like your standard 3-phase boss fight that the Remake project has. I'm not the biggest fan of that. It's kind of annoying to, like, there's always a damage wall, like, you always get to this point, and then it's got to do a phase. It's kind of whatever. It's just kind of, I'm not the biggest fan of seeing that with, like, every boss that we fight in the Remake project, but whatever. I'm just going to skip to me doing some Super Saiyan shit in the air, fighting this thing.
Go for the legs.
Take out its legs. Now.
Also, here is Sephiroth's limit break, Octaslash.
Enough of this.
In the last phase here, we're told to use our double helix synergy ability to knock it, like, off the wall or whatever. I don't know if this is, like, a thing that's going to be something we do throughout the Rebirth game, or there's, like, enemies that are in certain locations or something like that, and then maybe you can, like, knock them off walls by using particular synergy abilities, or if that's just something they want you to do for this fight just to show off the synergy ability. I don't entirely know. Anyways, we kill the damn thing, and then we get a little cutaway to our group talking and calm. We haven't really looked at those kind of, like, cutaways too much, but this one I think is a little interesting.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but everything you've said makes Sephiroth sound like a stand-up guy. Help me to understand this shit. Tell me something that'll really make my blood boil.
Oh, I will. I will.
Anyways, this is where we finally get to the Mount Nibel reactor, and you know what this is at this point. If you know the flashback, you know what happens here. The kind of everything that happens after this is pretty standard stuff when it comes to the Calm flashback. This is, of course, where Sephiroth discovers the Genova chamber in the reactor. He knows his mother's name is Genova, but just doesn't really know anything about it. But this is, of course, where he starts to question his existence. I will say, though, there's another pretty exciting minigame sort of thing where you get to turn a valve 5 times for some reason.
Go out and shut off the valve.
This is everything I ever dreamed Rebirth would be. Joking aside, of course, it's a little egregious, right? Like, why 5 times? Why can't I go over there and twist it once or twice or maybe even 3 times at max? But also, why does it take so goddamn long to do? It's a little weird. We actually haven't talked about this yet in the demo, but I have some gameplay of it here, so we might as well mention it. They do have these sections where you can't walk away, which it makes sense. It's kind of a serious moment, obviously. And they even told us in interviews that there's still going to be these kinds of sections where you're forced to go forward. I just hope it's not, like, too much, because there's quite a bit of this in the demo, man. It's pretty cool to see the Machinoid here. I think we've seen it in one of the trailers already, but this thing's always fascinated me since the original FF7 when this flashback's happening and Sephiroth has you look in the pod and it shows you that weird looking creature. I just always thought the thing was interesting. I always wanted to like fight it. Like I always wanted it to be like a boss or an enemy at some point. But it's kind of cool to see this. Like Sephiroth is like raging at what Hojo's done here, like these materia pods, using them for human like experiments and shit, and this where he starts questioning his existence. But he also puts this Machinoid out of its misery, which is like a kind of a good guy thing, obviously. So he's still not fully bad just yet.
Am I the same as these monsters? Ever since I was a child, I knew that I was different, that I was special, but not like this. Not like this.
Of course, this is where we kind of flash forward a bit. It's Nibelheim at night. Sephiroth locked himself inside the manor. We go there to visit him, and the manor itself is something that I have a little bit of a problem with. First and foremost, there's just nothing to do here. Like, you get inside of it, and it's completely locked down. You can't go up the stairs, you can't go to the right, you can't check the rooms. There's literally one room to the left that you can go into, and you can take an elevator down. It doesn't even have, like, the secret kind of hidden room that was upstairs, the little secret spiral staircase that got you down into the basement to, like, run by Vincent's bedroom. Like, there's just none of that. You just don't get to experience any of that. And they might just be saving that for later, and that is perfectly fine in its own way, right? They want you to, like, experience the Shinra Manor, like, in its full glory when you get there later on in the story when you visit Nibelheim. And again, that's perfectly fine. It was just another thing that was just kind of underwhelming about the demo, because I was expecting to get to explore this place, and you can't. See, even when it came to the original FF7, you could explore the mansion, the manor, whatever you want to call it. There wasn't anything there to do or find necessarily, right? You don't get to, like, fight Lost Number, get the Odin materia. None of that happens until later on. So that might be why they're doing it. It's kind of like that, where it's like, you couldn't really do anything anyways, so there's not really a point to exploring the manor. It just still kind of sucked. I was just hoping to be able to do it, which means we're going to have to wait till a little bit later into the Rebirth story to get to experience that. Anyways, we're going to fuck up all this furniture really quickly, and then we'll take our little elevator ride down to the basement. This elevator recording is actually another good shot of how dark this game can be at times. It's just kind of ridiculous. If not for the materia right here, I could barely see Cloud. They do give us a bit of a spiral staircase here, which I think has got to be a slight allusion to the original FF7. It's obviously nothing like the actual spiral staircase in that game. We come into this big-ass chamber room right here, and we see a door that we can't access, and I don't believe this is actually Vincent's door, because there's another door that's locked that has like some torches around it. It looks more like the area that we see Vincent in one of the trailers. And then Cloud walks over into this room and takes a nice little look at him and Zack's future home for the next couple of years. Something else I want to add with this moment too that just now hit as I'm watching this gameplay is this chamber we walk into is very, very big. And when it comes to the remake project, this generally means boss fights. And a lot of people are hoping that we get a like Vincent boss fight. And if that doesn't even happen, it could be like something in here too. Wherever this locked door is, there could be like a boss we fight later on in the game. Regardless, this definitely looks like some place that we're going to fight something. Anyway, Sephiroth's down the hall reading books like a nerd, but this is, of course, where he starts doing the research, discovering the origins of Jenova, the Cetra, things like that. He's starting to piece together what he thinks his lineage is, his history is, and he's right to a certain degree, of course, because he is made with Jenova cells, but of course, he is not an actual Cetra. Neither is Jenova.
EGL 77-1977. Jenova. Verified as an ancient. EGL 9/13/1977. Jenova project approved. So, they named the life form Jenova. And once they understood what she was, they grew ambitious.
And from this point onward, of course, for the next several days, this is where Sephiroth stays. He's just researching constantly, trying to figure out the history of himself, Jenova, all that other shit. And we pay one last visit to him in the Shinra Manor before things pop off.
We got Jenova, a locked reactor door, the name of Sephiroth's mother, and ancients. Screw it. Racking my brain's not gonna get me anywhere. May as well just ask the guy.
I thought this particular scene was just a little bit strange. Like, he's going over the details and is just confused. Like, you're told at the beginning of the flashback, or the beginning of the Nibelheim mission, that Jenova was his mom, right? And you'll get to a Nibelheim reactor. There's a freaking chamber with Jenova's name over the top. You go down to the basement, you hear Sephiroth reading these books about they dug up the life form and possibly she's a Cetra and all this other shit. And Zack Cloud's like, I don't understand it. I gotta talk to Sephiroth. Like, huh? Like, it's not that hard to piece together, man. It's pretty fucking weird. I do actually like this detail right here where he's about to walk away and he's like, you know what? I guess I'll grab my sword, because obviously that changes the whole dynamic of the Nibelheim incident. If, Zack never grabbed the sword in this moment, who knows how things might have played out. Unfortunately, though, for the people of Nibelheim, it still plays out very terribly. I do love some of the dialogue in this scene, though, getting to hear Tyler kind of show a different side of Sephiroth. Like, we're hearing a frustrated, angry Sephiroth in some of these moments right here, and I just absolutely love it, because that is a terrifying thought, right? A Sephiroth that is actually fucking angry.
The Genova project was approved soon after. A bold initiative to resurrect the long-dead ancients. An initiative that resulted in my conception, or rather, my creation. The crowning glory of Professor Gas' wondrous experiment.
Again, like I said previously in this review, I love getting to see the different sides of Sephiroth when it comes to this demo, because we've seen him like normal, kind of caring about the people that are with him, and now we're seeing him like pissed off, and we're going to see him like kind of crazy here at the end, right? When it came to Remake, you just get like one note with Sephiroth, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but he's just kind of calm for the most part, and actually in a lot of ways, and just kind of fucking with Cloud throughout the entirety of Remake, right? Great to just see the other sides to this villain, and Tyler Hoechlin adding a lot of personality to the character.
I should go. Mother is waiting.
If you slow the scene down, you get a nice transition shot of Sephiroth and Jenova, and I think it's actually maybe our first look at Jenova, if I'm not mistaken, because she's covered up when it comes to Remake, because she's like missing her head, right? Sephiroth, of course, wrecks our boy, throws him down the hallway, knocks him out, and he wakes up to some tragic shit.
I keep asking myself, why couldn't I have come to sooner? If I had, maybe I could have saved the village. Or tried, at least. What?
And of course, this is pretty much the climax of the Nibelheim incident. This is what the kind of history of Cloud and Sephiroth is based on. Sephiroth slaughtering pretty much everybody that Cloud has ever known, including his mother. This burning archway here crumbles and kind of injures Cloud, which makes him kind of have to limp his way through Nibelheim to try to get to his mother. And I think this is meant to mirror the scene we got towards the beginning of Remake, where Cloud has seen Sephiroth within Midgar, and you're kind of walking through like the burning rubble and shit. Obviously, these scenes aren't like a one-to-one comparison, but I think that's kind of what the Rebirth demo is calling back to, is this moment from the beginning of Remake, which we knew was about Nibelheim anyways. Of course, Cloud almost reaches his mom's house, and then some debris falls, so he has to go a different path. Kind of reminds me of like the Sector 7 slums with Aerith when she's trying to find Marlene, and a similar thing keeps happening. Thankfully, this door that appears to be boarded up from the outside just happens to open up. This person comes out, and they kind of stand there awkwardly for a minute and just kind of casually get down to the floor. I guess they're not feeling so well. Anyways, you got to go through this building here. You got to do a little crouch walk and stuff, whatever. This part I thought was a little bit interesting just because we see the water tower crumble. It's probably symbolic of some shit, right, with the promise scene or whatever. But we've seen, like, in some of the trailers for Rebirth, but also with just actually the scene we looked at a minute ago with Cloud walking through Midgar, kind of following Sephiroth's trail. Like, he has a flashback to the Nibelheim incident, and it shows him standing in front of the tower while it's burning. I don't know if this is meant to be like a actual him, like, completely remembering the moments that happened in the Nibelheim incident, or just kind of like the footnotes or something of the events, because we don't actually get to see the water tower burning like Cloud standing in front of it, because again, we just watched it crumble. Anyways, we progress towards Cloud's mom's house, and there's of course a nice little detail here of the trooper on the ground that is calling out to Sephiroth, trying to say mom. It's a cool detail. A lot of people are putting so much emphasis on this, like it's the greatest thing ever. And it is a cool detail, but it's super obvious. A lot of us know what this is. It's a little on the nose even for people that don't really know the Final Fantasy VII story. Look, I absolutely love details like this, of course. We want these like callbacks and stuff, the little details that only like somebody who knows the FF7 story would kind of catch. But this one's really on the nose because you're seeing this trooper on the ground crawling towards what we know is Cloud's mom's house, and it's clearly not Cloud because we're controlling Cloud, right? So it's like that one's like a cool detail. We know that Cloud's there, he's laying on the ground. We know that with OGFF7. We get that when we learn the truth and shit. Just something about it's just a little on the nose. I don't know. It's not the biggest deal. It's not ruining my demo playthrough. I just want to talk about it a bit. And actually, speaking of these little details, this one I really, really like. It's at the very beginning of the demo. Whenever Cloud's talking to this trooper, if you look under their helmet, you can very clearly see their bright blonde hair. This one's I like. This one is something that's very missable. It's something you wouldn't catch. You wouldn't even understand it. Even if you did notice the hair, you wouldn't outright assume that it's Cloud if you don't already know the Final Fantasy VII story. Also kind of like the idea that Cloud is like recounting the story, and in that moment, there's that guy with blonde hair that you can kind of see sticking out from under the helmet, but he's just choosing to ignore it. Anyways, that Cloud doesn't know what a backdraft is, so they open the doors to this burning house and absolutely get blasted. We had a cool moment right here where Cloud's looking at the door while it's burning, get the digital glitch effect. The door's open, but then it cuts to this scene where the door is closed to kind of show you that this scene right here happened before the door actually blew open, to kind of show you that Cloud's misremembering stuff, right? He was definitely laying on the ground with the doors closed at one point. For some reason, part of my footage corrupted again, so I had to like re-record this whole like ending sequence here. But yeah, this guy tries to help Cloud get up and actually gets murdered by Sephiroth, and we see a little bit of blood, which is kind of cool because we like to see that a little bit with our FF7. Also take note that there's no smoky bullshit coming out of the wound like there was with like Remake and also Crisis Core Reunion. Like, we're seeing the blade going through this guy's torso. There's not blood all over the blade or anything. And I can handle that. It's not necessarily realistic, but I can handle it. At least we're not covering up like wounds and shit with smoke. It was dumb as fuck. And from here we get this somewhat polarizing sequence of the game, of the demo, where you have to like crawl towards Sephiroth. It's a very slow little, again, almost mini game, whatever you want to call it. But he gets surrounded by some of the townspeople with guns, and they just hold him at gunpoint for a very long time and choose not to shoot him. Some people don't care about this. Some people think that there's like some sort of meaning behind it or some shit. But it's just, I personally also kind of agree that it's stupid. Like right here, they have him at gunpoint. And they're going to have him at gunpoint for the next, I don't know how many seconds. I don't even know how long this recording is exactly right here. But they have him at gunpoint this whole time, and they're not shooting. Like, he's already slaughtered almost everybody in Nibelheim, right? And he's actively going to be slaughtering some of these guys in front of the other guys. And they just never shoot. And it's not that they would even kill Sephiroth anyways, but it's just kind of the point. Like, you're holding him at gunpoint. Where's the fear? Y'all surrounded him. If y'all are afraid of Sephiroth and afraid to pull the trigger, which is what some people say is happening here, why'd you surround him in the first place? Like, it's just kind of a weird sequence in my opinion. I personally think it'd have been a better sequence if they did pull the triggers, but Sephiroth is just dodging that shit, because you can kind of warp with him when you control him in combat, or he's just like deflecting the bullets with the sword, right? Like, there's something you could have done differently here, I feel. Anyways, of course, he kills these guys, and he's particularly brutal with the mayor. He actually cuts the legs first, so kind of the knees, makes him drop down, and then he actually puts the sword to the guy's neck, and I don't know exactly what happens here. I don't know if he just cuts the guy's throat or cuts his fucking head off, because his hat floats down, and the floating of the hat makes me think that the head came off, right? Because why else would it be floating down like that? I could be wrong, but at the very least, he just cut the guy's fucking throat, and that's the brutality I want from my FF7 remake. Even if we don't get to see it, that shit still happened. But also, the music in this moment, holy shit. Like, it literally gives me chills hearing it again. Like, I've heard that so many times already, and just editing it here for the video, like, I got chills right now. Like, the hair standing up on my arms, just hearing that, like, sadistic fucking music, man. Right? And of course, from the sequence of Sephiroth killing the mayor, we're leading into the iconic shot of Sephiroth walking through the fire. It looks fantastic. But then imagine my surprise when that's where it ends. That shit kind of surprised the hell out of me, because if you know the original FF7, if you know the flashback, there's more after that, right? You get the iconic shot of them going through the fire, and there's some more shit that happens at the reactor. We don't get that here. I don't know if that means that we get more in like the next chapter, like the beginning of chapter 2 or something. We finish off the flashback, or if they save it for a later point, or if like the full release will skip to this part right here, like the end of this part of the demo, and then it picks up like with the reactor, and then we finish it out. So maybe we don't necessarily have all of chapter 1 with the demo. I don't know. It's a little jarring, though, because I was expecting to get the rest of the flashback. This feels like kind of a weird place to stop it, especially because we've kind of already seen the rest of the Nibelheim incident anyways, through like flashbacks and remake, where you see like Tifa over her dead father and shit picking up the sword. And then also with like some of the Rebirth trailers, we've actually seen, you know, Sephiroth slashing Tifa at the top of the stairs by the Genova door or whatever, right? So we've kind of seen the rest of it already. So it's weird to not have it be a part of the demo. So I don't know what that's about exactly. That'll be just about the video, my dudes. This is, I think, the longest video I've ever made on my channel. I've been doing YouTube for a very long time, since 2014, 2015. I don't think I've ever had a video that's like pushing the 40-minute mark, other than when I used to kind of stream back in the day. Obviously, that doesn't really count. But like working on a video with like editing and shit and talking about this and reviewing it and discussing aspects of the demo. This is the biggest video I've ever made, dude. And I was very passionate about this. It felt good to do. Like, I haven't done a project like this, well, technically ever, but anything like this in a long, long time. I just felt really passionate to do something good for Rebirth, because I never got to really do a proper review of Remake, and I don't really even know why I didn't do that. I just didn't. I don't know if we're going to do something like this for the full game of Rebirth, because this is just a demo, and we made this into a massive-ass video. That'd be a long-ass video. I'm not saying it's off the table. I just don't know for sure yet. But obviously, videos like this, these massive-ass videos that's taken me multiple days to make here, I highly appreciate any support on it. Do the comments, likes, subscribes, the shares if you want to share them. Any kind of support on the videos just very much welcome. Just to know that my efforts here weren't wasted. Anyways, we're going to wrap it up. This is the longest video. If you made it this far, what are you doing? Why would you watch me for this long? You're insane. Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. So in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, #DavidYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.